Welcome, everyone, to another episode of Galactic Ambition, a Star Wars Unlimited podcast, part of the Maindeck podcast family. I'm Dan.
And I'm Jason, and did you know we are, in some places, hours away from pre-releases for Shadow of the Galaxy? I imagine, on, other parts of the world, they're already doing them.
They might even, in Australia, they might already be cracking open their pre-release kits and getting to play. And it's so exciting. Jason, after I finished the video that we just posted last week, where we sent the very, very kind content creator box from FFG, it became real, right? I was like, finally, because we were talking in the last episode, we've been waiting for a long time on this set. And I started cracking things open and finally started internalizing some more of these cards and everything. I'm so pumped looking through the set list again in preparation for this. This set is sweet. I'm so excited.
I was feeling it from hundreds of miles across the United States as you were opening it. I was shadow opening one of my own that I didn't have and just feeling that with you because, we're connected in that way.
Maybe someday they'll send you a kit as well. Maybe. I don't know, but
that's okay. I'm not jealous. No, it's really exciting. And it's it's like we said, it's exciting to finally be on that precipice. We're almost there. Having those cards, some of us having them in our hands already. And it's really exciting. And that's really kind of what we're talking about. But before we get there, I have some pressing stuff to talk about here. Some really pressing stuff.
Is this serious?
It's not serious, but it's somewhat serious.
Okay.
It's not.
What is it, Jason?
It's getting the cold or flu in the middle of the summer has to be top one worst thing.
Well, where you live,
it's oh my gosh. So the past
it's got to be miserable.
So since about Sunday, I left work and I was feeling a little, my throat was a little scratchy, and I'm like, oh okay, well, I'll be fine. Get some sleep. Maybe it's because I run our Pokemon League on Sunday with 20 plus people in there, so I'm always yelling across the store. And just, don't throw things and, be nice and sports and
Pokemon.
No, it's not
Pokemon players are savages.
It's the really young ones throwing their coins around and stuff because, they're kids. Or they're they figured out our our monitor displays for the pairings and stuff are touch screens. So they've been they found the notepads and the other day they were drawing things. I'm like, oh, that's fun. I'm like, that's that. And I'm like, oh, those are guns. So I was like, okay, these are taken away now. So it's like daycare in a fun way. I really enjoy it. And then Monday I woke up and I was sweating through my sheets. I'm like, maybe my AC is not working. I get up and I'm like, I'm done. Couldn't breathe through my nose. I'm just rasping about my house. Finally, coming to find out, I have walking pneumonia. Very exciting stuff.
Fun.
Really cool. Kind of took out our whole workplace, which was awesome. We were glad it was not COVID, but that's been fun. This is probably the first day where I have my voice back, so I will share it with everybody. I just had to drop that in because living in the South in this humidity and everything right now is already horrible. But I still had to I had to go to the doctor's office, and I'm like, why am I outside? Why am I walking to my car? Why am I walking through this parking lot? I can't. This is the end. But I'm glad it wasn't the end.
We're glad it wasn't the end for you also, Jason. And thank you for taking all your energy that you just got back today and sharing it with our audience.
I'm really excited to talk about this Shadows of the Galaxy stuff, and really excited to get to all the hype stuff we have to talk about today, and just stuff that I've been really itching to talk about.
Right. Oh, your throat's been itching to talk about.
Wow. Man. Ooh.
Yeah. Ooh. I think this is a very exciting podcast because this is the most exciting time, release of a new set, right? And this is going to be the episode that releases, on pre-release weekend. Then we're going to have our release day the next week, and then the following week will be kind of the first this first episode post the release of Shadows, when we've all gotten to finally play decks and everything. So a couple of extremely exciting, I think just moments for Star Wars Unlimited fan base. Before we jump into our topic today, as if you clicked on this, or if you just it just auto played for you or something, but we're talking about the most anticipated cards from Shadows of the Galaxy. And I'm gonna talk about that a little bit later. We're just gonna push that aside because we want to mention a couple of like just little news things that have come up, other than Jason almost dying again,
Almost.
which seems to actually happen a surprising amount.
I live in
But
Florida. It's dangerous.
yeah, you like wake up every morning, it's like a crocodile or an alligator, wrong one, alligator
Yeah, careful.
in your backyard and like just in your chilling,
Just hanging out, not chilling
threatening
down
you,
here, sweating.
sweating and threatening you.
Mm-hmm.
No, one of the things I want to mention is that as we are recording this, like I think just a day or two ago, we had the drop of the comprehensive rules update
Yeah.
for Star Wars Unlimited with Shadows of the Galaxy. Um, we're not going to dive in depth into that here because I will have a video coming next week that is going to hit some of those new rules things that you will need to know if you are someone who isn't. So we got all sorts of players. We got the players who are like the rules lawyers who know everything in and out, and that when that dropped, it was like a new Taylor Swift album dropped, and they immediately had to dig through it. That was me, not the Taylor Swift album, but the reading the rules.
Not a Swiftie. Okay.
Yeah, Taylor, Maindeck Taylor is, which makes sense because his name is Taylor. Yeah. But that's a different podcast. So I had to read the rules really deep, but I know there's a bunch of players who are just like, I was getting people in Discord like, just give me the lowdown. Like, what was the main changes here? So we're gonna have the video coming up where I'm gonna go in depth in some of the stuff. But I think, Jason, correct me if I'm wrong, I think the biggest thing that people are really talking about here is the leader.
Oh yeah,
rule adjustment.
Yeah.
And the gist of this is in Spark of Rebellion, when leaders would be deployed, they remained in play, like the leader was in play as a leader, and then it just changed its zone into a unit, but it didn't like leave or enter play. And now leaders simultaneously leave and enter play when they flip either direction. And what does that mean? It does not mean they trigger when played because you're still deploying them, not playing them. It just means if there are effects that are like if a unit leaves play, or if a unit entered this turn.
Yes.
Those are a couple of the big ones that you're going to see. Those now do count when leaders are deployed or defeated. They will actually count as having entered or left play, even though the leader card is still in play. The reason this change happened, I think, like the big reason for a lot of these changes, honestly, as someone who like knows the rules pretty well and was digging into this, and in particular as someone who knows the rules questions that have been asked pretty well. The major thing that happened in this comp rules, other than laying out capture and bounty and all the new stuff from Shadows, was adjustments to some of the rulings and semantics to make the cards play the way people expected that they did. It was like an intuition change. So the leader change happened. I bet primarily, I'm sure there's some like mechanical things that they can do with this too. Like, for example, people were asking about how capture worked with leaders for a long time. And now we understand that more. But the big thing that this did was just made it so that when players played the game, they already kind of assumed that leaders left and entered play. And they were like, they thought stuff triggered based on when a leader was deployed or not. Now it does.
Yeah.
When they had to be corrected before, but now you just go, yep, that's how that works.
Which is good. I think it clears up a lot of unintended confusion. It makes things feel more nuanced than like how everyone kind of expected. What's funny is some people untying their brains from how they initially thought it worked to how it worked to how it works now. Like in some of the comments on social media, that's been entertaining, not like a ha ha ha. Just like it's funny to see that get like that not pull apart. But I think that's probably there are a couple other little things that aren't like, too crazy. And I know you'll go over them in your video, but that definitely is a nice clarification. I don't really, it's not like earth shattering, but it's important. I do think it's important. I'm glad they made that a distinction, mainly because I think it just makes everything a little more clear and clear cut, streamlined, I guess a better word.
Yeah, just it feels right. It feels when something's defeated, it should leave play. Like that's kind of how that's that feels like it should work. It is a, the thing we talk about a little bit too, is that it is a minor buff to Boba Fett leader, right?
Yes.
Because he will now get to ready resources when if he like attacks and defeats a leader, as the first thing defeated that round, he'll get to ready those immediately. So like, I honestly, this is like, it's not a huge thing. There are probably every Boba player has had like a few games where there's a turn where like, oh, I would like to sequence this where I could defeat the leader and get the trigger right now. And then they had to do something else.
Yeah.
But it's not a huge amount, but it's a few of them because it requires the opponent has the leader out, you have your Boba out, and there's nothing else you'd rather kill, and your only option is attacking with Boba, or it's the preferred option is to attack with Boba, I should say. And then readying the resources now is useful. Like there's a bunch of these little things that have to kind of go into that to make it useful. The thing that I kind of like about this is that Boba Fett Disintegrator, which is the legendary, got a little nerf, which I think is fine because that card felt very pushed. But previously, Disintegrator could disintegrate leaders the turn they deployed because they had already been in play since unless we have a turn 1 flip leader at some point, which we don't currently. That'd be wild. But it was overly good against leaders where you could just attack for 6 against any leader as a 3-drop, which is like scary. Now he can't do that. He has to wait for the leader to be in a turn, which is fine because card's good enough already.
Yeah, I don't think. I mean, it's kind of just unnecessary evil, I guess, in that regard for Boba players. They have to deal with hardship, I guess, sometimes.
Yeah, they'll have to have a little bit of hardship in their life.
Go figure. But yeah, no, I exciting changes. It's nice to, again, it's exactly kind of what I wanted at like one of my biggest ones actually in the last video was like a comprehensive rules update. And so it's really nice to see the cadence. And again, maybe not the cadence, with every set, but I will take what I can get.
With this one, I want to say too, maybe just a slight like silver lining to the way they did this, and maybe a reasoning for that. I as I said, I think this rules update is really focused on collating basically or combining all the questions that players were asking and making sure the rules work the way that they thought they did when possible. It's like going from a version 1 to version 2 of a game is kind of the way I think of it. Is like, okay, we released the game, we watched everyone play with it, and then we went, where did we get it a little off? It's early on in the game. Let's just adjust a few things right now to make sure it feels smooth going forward. And to that end, if that's what your plan is with the rules update, I feel like it does make sense to wait out that like full set 1 cycle and just kind of get all that feedback to come in, see how everything plays out, figure out your adjustments. Like when they went to make this adjustment, they probably had to go back and tweak wording on things, play like from future sets. They had like figure out, that might change how this thing plays. That might change how this, like capture is a great example. Where it says that when the guarding unit leaves play, then the capture unit returns to its owner's control. And right when they revealed that, everyone was like, how does that work with leaders? Right. I can't believe Fantasy Flight would get that. They already got the wording wrong on this. They have to errata all the capture cards because leaders don't leave play. Like there were people out there who were like already on FFG, like waiting to pounce the moment that they screwed anything up or whatever. And so like they saw this, like they screwed it up. It turns out they probably just settled on this ruling change pretty early on, at least early enough to get into the files and adjust the wording on capture. It probably didn't take them very long at all to start to realize that was the thing they should do. And then send that to print. And then I think they just waited a little longer just to, check out future sets, see if there's anything else that needs to be included, figure out how to word things like their nested abilities rulings and everything, which have been cleaned up a little bit too. So in the spirit of just like trying to update the rules, I like not just pushing something out right away and kind of just making sure because what you don't want is this to feel like they're just flying by the seat of their pants, like changing things over and over as they go. Like every 2 weeks, we've changed how leaders entering works or something. This kind of update they want to take their time with for sure.
Sure. And I think a big part of it too is, again, we weren't in an organized play cycle outside of store showdowns or anything like that. So it's a good time to collate the data, take the bug fixes, take the whatever meaningful feedback. Let's be nice about that. Meaningful feedback, and make it right and do right by it. And I really think they did an excellent job with that. And then now that we are heading into an organized play season, there might be a quicker cadence, especially as new interactions come up or things like that. So we'll see. But it's exciting, and I'm excited for your video on that because you do a really good job at explaining rule stuff. Because Mino think good. So
thank you.
appreciate
I hope I do a good job with this one too. I know people have responded well to the previous ones, but maybe I'll screw it up. I have no idea. We'll see. Any other news we have to mention, Jason, before we dig in here?
No, I feel like our news is good. I think that was the big thing we wanted to really cover and talk about, is make sure, hey, that dropped. We willed it into existence again. Let's go.
If I remember, there will be a link to the comp rules down below. Probably we'll remember and put it in. So that'll be good. Before we move on then to our most anticipated cards from Shadows of the Galaxy, I'm going to mention really briefly, if you guys do enjoy Galactic Ambition and the absolutely no work that Jason and I put in ever to get this podcast out.
No work.
It's a surprising amount of effort sometimes to get our schedules to align and everything. So I really hope you guys do enjoy these episodes. And if you do, it really helps if you pop down and show us by leaving a like on the video, leaving a comment, letting us know what you think. Love every little comment that we get on our podcast. Just makes me feel really good. So I really do appreciate that. And of course, if you think you have friends who might enjoy listening to the podcast also, they might like enjoying listening to the podcast too. Share it with them. That'd be really cool. 5-star ratings on iTunes, Spotify, all that stuff, really helpful as well. And then we're going to be talking about card prices and stuff very shortly. If you do decide to bite the bullet and purchase any cards that you need from Shadows of the Galaxy for your decks on tcgplayer.com, remember, you can always use our affiliate link, bit.ly/shoptcgs. That's bit.ly/shoptcgs. And anything you purchase then on TCG Player will give a little kickback to us, which is super appreciated as well. So thank you all so much for your support in all the ways that you do support us. Jason, why don't you... well, actually, if you don't mind, I just want to mention something before we dig into this. I normally let you lead, but I just want to say something.
It's your thing. Jeez.
Yeah, it's our thing. So we're going to be talking today about the most anticipated cards from Shadows of the Galaxy. One thing I have to mention right away is that this entire set is anticipated.
Yes.
Okay. So we've been playing with Stark Rebellion for long enough. Everyone wants more cards. The cards in here are very exciting. There are tons of cards that I want to talk about, and we don't have time right now to record like a 24-hour podcast. I think that is honestly how long it would take to do our excitement for the entire set.
Yeah.
So there's going to be a lot of stuff on the table. What we've decided to do to kind of make this easy is we have just kind of pulled up the TCG Player current pricing for things, which gives us a read on what cards people are willing to put money down for. That means we're not going to be talking about a lot of things like Fell the Dragon and Rivals Fall and it's just some cards that are like going to be played McClunky. They're going to be played. They're going to be really good. And we'll just have to talk about them later. So this one's really going to be about mostly expensive legendaries, their place in the kind of the burgeoning new meta game that people are exploring. Some rares, some stuff like that. But if you're expecting our discussion on the really niche, good, useful removal spells and stuff, it's going to be another time. So I just had to get that out there, Jason. But with that said, go ahead. Let's lead us into this.
Yeah. So, we, usually before we do these episodes, we sit on here and we chat for about, 20, 30 minutes, okay, all right, what are we going to do? And, we're looking and again, to segue back to that point, we talked a very long time actually this time, longer than we normally do, about exactly which cards we're going to talk about. But I guess the one we immediately, the first card we talked about, and it's probably the most important card to talk about on this list, is Krayt Dragon. Dan, I'm going to let you start. What are your thoughts on this very exciting, fun, and interactive card?
Yeah, Krayt Dragon is cool because it is the card that for its normal version on TCG Player right now, it's just non-hyperspace, non-foil, the regular one. It has the highest, it's currently commanding the highest price tag in the set, which is exactly what I expected after kind of watching everyone chat about this card for a while and speculating on it. So Krayt Dragon is a 9-cost 10/10 with Overwhelm. It is aggression. It is not heroism or villainy. So it's just mono aggression, but not double aggression either. It's just go fit in anything. It is not unique. And I think that's an important thing too. That's going to be something that will start to have some more interactions. And we'll talk about some of those in a little bit. And it has a really minor ability, which is when an opponent plays a card, you may deal damage equal to that card's cost to their base or a ground unit. I forgot it could be a ground unit too. I had to read that again. Like, as I was reading, I was like, wait a second. I kept thinking it'll just hit them for whatever, but you can actually just kill their stuff.
Yeah, it's just minor.
It's a minor. This is a minor ability that basically says if your opponent tries to vanquish this, they take 5. Either their base takes 5, or you kill one of their things as well, or something. That has implications for some of the stuff we're going to talk about too. Actually,
there's so much here.
It's actually just a very powerful card. It's currently, as we're recording this podcast. Now, also the big thing to mention is like prices are ridiculous right now. They're all over the place.
Yes.
They don't mean anything.
This is not gospel.
These are just the early, the early read, the single data point we can get before pre-release, before the set even launches. These are just pre-sales that certain stores have put up, basically. So I couldn't tell you where the prices will go after this. It really depends on the supply and demand of the set and everything. Yeah. But Krayt Dragon is sure to command a decent price tag for a while here, I think. And I think it's very warranted. I think this thing is one of the most devastating end game threats that we've seen so far in the game. If it's left unchecked, it is Devastator's killing power as far as like taking your opponent. Devastator's clock basically on taking your opponent out of the game, but for one less resource. But it's a 10/10 overwhelm the same way. But it has this thing where if the opponent sometimes you play Devastator gets to take something with it, which is nice. Krayt Dragon does too, if it's answered with something like with a Vanquish or something. Then it can still just deal 5 damage to an opponent's unit, and a lot of the time that'll also take something out. But if your opponent, if maybe sometimes you play Devastator and like you don't have a great target to kill, I've had that happen occasionally playing some more Yellow Palpatine, which I was going to talk about that, but whatever. That deck's really fun, really good deck. We have a video on that. But Krayt Dragon can come down on a less threatening board. And the opponent, if they don't immediately answer it, they're in huge danger.
Yeah,
because it just stops them from doing anything without losing stuff or taking 1 million damage.
Yeah. It's wild to me that if you don't have an answer, all of your ground units as you play, I mean, forget it. These cards are just dead on arrival for the most part, or they're coming in severely damaged. Which to me, if you don't, I truly feel if you don't have an answer for Krayt Dragon on that first turn, you are either you're way ahead and it doesn't matter, or I don't know how you dig yourself out of those games. It's crushing. It feels in the play testing I have had more oppressive than Avenger, and I despise Avenger. It is just. Like, I despise that card. I love to play it, but I despise it as well. It's suffocating. And the fact that it's not tied to heroism or villainy too is just a huge win. Maybe not in a lot of other people's eyes, but it's nice for Red to get kind of like that that cherry on top. It just happens to be a giant dragon instead.
Yeah,
but it's like a cherry.
Yeah, it's cool. It is so it's a card that has the potential to, I mean, okay, I'm trying to tiptoe around this a little bit because I am very hesitant often to have cards banned in games. I think that I generally subscribe to the philosophy that players can usually work out many problems in their metagame given time and tools. I guess right now, blaster to my head, I think that Krayt Dragon will be fine. I think it's very good. I don't think it will need to be banned. That said, I think this is the first card I've seen in this game where I could see a ban being justified based on how the metagame shakes out.
Sure.
Do you think that's fair, Jason?
No, I absolutely agree. I truly think we haven't seen a card with the sheer amount of weight, that it, I mean, granted, it's a huge freaking dragon, but like the sheer amount of weight it carries once it hits the table. Like, it's just like, oh my gosh, like I need to answer this immediately. And every card I use to try to answer it also affects me negatively.
Yeah.
And usually too, when you're using removal, like you're sometimes you're time walking yourself in a sense from a different play. So it's compounded. And I don't want to, let the cat out of the bag too, but I feel like we kind of talked about playing it, for 9. What if we play it for a little less? What if we play it for 8, 7?
Yep. Yeah. I do want to jump to that. I want to just mention really quick again, because people can get very up in arms about this topic. I'm not calling for a Krayt Dragon ban pre-release.
Get it out of here.
Jason, no, you aren't. Because
I'm not.
People,
I'm excited for this card. No.
People are gonna go on social media and be like, I'm hearing content creators already saying this needs to be banned. And I'm saying that this card has the potential to at some point need a ban. I think that's a possibility, but I also, I think that this card is, I think thematically this card is incredible. I think this is like watching the episode of The Mandalorian where they fight the Krayt Dragon, which is top 3 Mandalorian episodes. I think it just incredible episode. It was cool to finally see a Krayt Dragon after years and years, and literally since 1977 when the bones were in the desert and Obi-Wan did a call which changed from edition to edition. That I don't remember. I meant to go back and see if the sounds the Krayt Dragon makes in The Mandalorian are at all similar to the sound Obi-Wan made. I don't know. But it's an amazing, iconic Star Wars creature at this point that feels absolutely brutal to play. Really, I think you said it right. It has a weight. It feels impactful. And I think it's so cool. And I'm super excited to play around with it. And I'm just leaving. It's like this space is open for me to, in a month, go, whoa, this thing is kind of being a problem. And like how in our last episode, Jason, we talked about how we thought, you know what, the players will figure Boba out and he'll just become a deck and he won't be like the top performing deck all the time. And then he was the top performing deck most of the time.
Yeah.
I always leave myself the option, the door to take the L on something. And that's really what I'm saying here. So, right now, what we're seeing is people are building decks where the sole purpose is to play Krayt Dragon as fast and as consistently as possible. And these decks are currently being built where Krayt Dragon is, I think, droppable as early as around turn. Did we say turn 5, Jason?
Turn 5
when
is
we're
what I think.
Going through math, I think turn 5 is like the best case scenario to get a Krayt Dragon down. And we're talking Red Han, Hero Han, the new the new Han.
Yeah.
What's he called?
The new
Worth the risk.
The new hauntness.
The new Hanness.
Yeah.
Han Solo worth the risk. So this is a new leader from set 2, which has action, exhaust, play a unit from your hand. It costs 1 less, deal 2 damage to it. So this Han in particular is being played because he has this ability to reduce the cost of the Krayt Dragon. You deal with 2 damage. Oh no.
Oh no.
what are we going to do? It drops the Krayt Dragon cost down to 8. And then because Han is taking care of your red, then you're free to play command as your second color. And these decks are jamming in. I've seen decks that are running every single ramp, including off aspect Super Laser Technician in the deck, because you can use Han's action to play it for 4 and kill it immediately and get the resource.
It's
which
hilarious.
Is like, yeah, it's pretty cool. These decks are even doing things like playing recruit and stuff just to find Krayt Dragon as fast as possible. So there's a lot of ramp that they could play. There's a lot of consistency. Their ability to find this, their ability to find Krayt Dragon, drop Krayt Dragon, and give you a huge headache. I wouldn't be surprised to see Krayt Dragon and Yellow Han from set 1. That's another deck that can push out multiple resources on a key turn in order to kind of, just drop the Krayt Dragon a little sooner. Can't ramp as easily or at all. Really with Yellow. I guess you could play no, DJ's villainy, isn't he? The new DJ.
Yeah.
No, he's not.
No, wait, no. He's just
but
well,
you'd still have to smuggle him off aspect because the smuggle has 2 cunning symbols.
Yes.
But that is a way to take your opponent's resources as well. So yeah, I'm not sure exactly all the builds we're going to see with Krayt Dragon, but right now this Han Solo one is pretty hot. It's dropping Krayt Dragon very fast. Jason, how do you feel? What do you feel hearing about this, like this 15 ramp card Han list?
It's kind of like we talked about before we started talking. It's like super sweet deck. I am playing my mono blue villainy deck against this deck. See you later. No,
yeah, well, yeah. I mean, there's no argument about that.
That being said, it looks like the plan is consistent enough to get this out on like reasonably turn 6. Like you don't need a magical Christmas land setup to just like get it out on turn 6. If you know that's what they're playing, okay, cool. You can kind of play around. It's still not nice, but then you still have to have answers for the next one and the next one. And it's still playing really good cards in the list. Like you're still playing, like you're not just playing all these clunkers to just ramp out. You still have cards to kind of get you to that in a bit of a longer game. You have cards like Poe in some of these lists and stuff, which is just an incredible card in general. Like it's just an awesome card. It's going to be annoying. It's going to be hilarious. I'll just say it. When the first time I see that happen to somebody and they don't realize it's coming, it's going to be hilarious. And I think it's both exciting and horrifying because stuff like that is what gets these cards in trouble.
Right.
It's not the fact that Krayt Dragon's a very powerful card. It's silly things like this. I was like, oh, okay, well, but time will tell. Because we didn't say it should get banned.
Yeah, it's like it's if he was just played on turn 8 every time, the game's got to end at some point, right? Like there's no problem with haymaker plays being haymaker plays. The problem is, if there is a problem, the problem would be how efficiently and consistently you're able to play him on an early turn. Like the thing about card games is like if doing that is fine if the deck doesn't feel like it. If the deck feels like it gives up a lot to do that.
Yeah.
Right. So if the deck, in order to it, if like any combo, just talk about like combos basically is where you look at this. Combos can be instant win in card games. That's fine if they're not also doing it consistently at an early turn in the game. Right. It's like, it's one of those things where it's like, you have to choose 2, right? You can have powerful combo, early combo, consistent combo.
Right.
any two of those is usually a good deck, but not an oppressive deck, right? If it's an early and it's a strong or instant win, that can be fine as long as it's not consistent. If it's consistent and a stronger instant win, that can be fine as long as it's not too fast, right? And if it's consistent and it is early, that's fine if it's not too powerful, right? So it's a choose two situation. And the only reason this would be a problem is if all three get chosen.
Sure.
Every time.
All the circles overlap, in the Venn diagram. And then something you mentioned. Go ahead.
Yeah, go ahead.
Something you mentioned about haymakers. And the big thing I've noticed in Star Wars Unlimited is a haymaker is usually answered with either removal or another haymaker. You cannot answer Krayt Dragon with another haymaker. You absolutely cannot. That's the scary thing.
Devastator okay.
The big thing is like when we were having I go back to Blue Villainy. I'm like, oh, Avenger. I'm like, I'll play my Avenger. It's like, oh, darn, you had the other one in your hand. I will play an Avenger and take 9. Your guys, you know what I mean? It's just like
honestly, I think Star Destroyer, Star Wars Unlimited has been some of my favorite games. I'm using it it's called like Battle Cruiser Magic, but here it's obviously Star Destroyers, and it has been Star Destroyers a lot of the time where they drop Avenger, you drop Devastator, they drop another Avenger, right. you drop Relentless, you do all this stuff, playing gigantic space units and like battling it out. Krayt Dragon is at its worst. It is Devastator in that situation because they'll play Devastator, deal the 10 to it, and you'll just deal the 10 back to Devastator.
Yeah.
And then you're like, okay, cool. Like I played my thing and it instantly killed your Devastator is what a Devastator would have done. That's the worst case scenario. The best case scenario is you go, I want to Devastator you, but I only have 10
I will
HP left.
I will lose the game.
So I actually can't play this without losing the game.
Like it's disgusting. It's so good.
So it's and as you mentioned too, like Devastator can be out aggroed, where you can just be like, well, okay, I can take one hit from Devastator, but I have stuff on board, and I'm just going to play 3 more units, and then I'll just kill them next turn. Every time you play one of those units, it either brings you closer to death or the unit just dies because they direct because they direct the unit's resource cost to its health as damage. It's we're going to talk about Snoke a little later.
Yeah.
But I want people to consider the fact that Snoke, who is an 8-cost 6/6, who says your opponent's units get -2/-2, is in certain board states a much, 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 much worse version of Krayt Dragon. Because Snoke says anything you play gets -2. Krayt Dragon says anything you play takes damage equal to its resource cost immediately, which might just kill it.
Yep.
There are units that survive it, and that's fine. And then Snoke would make them a -2 power, which would be good. I think Snoke's good.
No, yeah.
But Krayt Dragon is just kind of on another echelon. And it took me a little bit actually to warm up to this thought too, right away. Cause right away I was on this, we'll just kill it. And you can, be fair,
you certainly can.
Fell the Dragon, aptly named card in this set because it is basically the cheapest cost direct targeted removal that deals with Krayt Dragon. You'll take the least damage without having to have a weird board setup. You can power the dark side it. You can make them sacrifice it, but they have to have nothing else in play. And I think those Han decks
in the list where they're trying to cheat it out, they might actually just go Krayt Dragon. And you're like, okay, cool. There's obviously they will likely play around that scenario. But
and as you mentioned too, blue villainy, mono blue villainy decks, which again I consider underrated in the Spark of Rebellion metagame. I performed extremely well playing some of those decks against a lot of the metagame.
I'm very excited for that in the set. Gar Saxon's probably the leader I'm most excited to play. I think that it's I think it's gonna be very powerful.
Spaceman Gar Saxon. I love that guy. I love that he looks like a total dork in the artwork, and I absolutely love him. But I think he's really good too. And I think those decks against like the ramp to Krayt Dragon decks are going to have a field day
Mm-hmm.
because those decks are not putting pressure on significantly. They're not. They're not putting pressure on. They're just going to go late and put a Krayt Dragon down. You'll have every answer in the game for it. You'll go way later than them, and they're going to deal you damage, and you just heal it.
Yep.
You're just like vigilance, like okay.
And the go fast Hans are going to have to deal with my regional governor or whatever, or director
well,
guy,
yeah,
and just like, hey, how about you don't play it at all?
Let's talk about a few other things that we've noted, Jason, thinking about things that are ways that people will be able to adapt their decks or adapt the metagame to deal with Krayt Dragon if it becomes extremely oppressive.
Yeah.
Like what? Go ahead and talk about regional governor. I think that's a reasonable card.
I think that in the go fast versions we've seen, they don't have an answer to direct removal. They're like direct unit removal. They're going to have to slam their units into your unit. And if they're trying to go fast into that card, most of those plans to get to that point don't deploy another unit. They're typically just kind of like, okay, they're playing super laser tech, but that thing is going to die.
They're playing it to die immediately to Han.
So like you can just as easily go around that into that turn, play it, and then maybe even by that point, well, okay, cool, they flip Han swing. It's like I just play another one. It's cheap. It's an efficient, answer before the question's asked. I think it's probably my favorite one. I know we talked about a couple of other ones, not quite as clean. This one is one where you'll hopefully be able to stave that off and then do what your deck's need to do. A real kind of thing I was looking at, maybe like even what were we talking about? A Spark of Rebellion. That's a real good way to deal with that card.
I was wondering,
discard
it feels like Jason is biding time right now, trying to remember the card.
Oh, dude, I was sitting here. I was like, "What is a Spark of the who? Spark of what? Oh yeah, Spark of the Rebellion."
Jason was like padding an essay that he had to write for college.
Yeah. I was doing all the spacing and the words were invisible and stuff like that.
We've all been there.
No,
but yes, Spark of Rebellion.
Not me. No, but yeah, Spark of the Rebellion. Absolutely. Just get it out of their hand. Get that, not even it, get the combo piece out of their hand. If you really think, if they don't have it, it's like, cool, let me hinder their combo chances to get to it. Being proactive is a big deal. You don't want to be at all possible. Being reactive to this card is a terrible idea. Proactive answers are what we're looking for. I'll let you, the red one, the new one.
Yes, I'm really excited about this because I think this card got spoiled really early and maybe fell off of radars a little bit, but I think it's going to be a card you might even at least just consider in your sideboard in aggression decks. But IG-11, I Cannot Be Captured, is a 5-cost aggression 6/5 droid bounty hunter. It can go in heroism or villainy decks. It's great. If this unit would be captured, defeat them and deal 3 damage to each enemy ground unit instead. Funny text that basically, like, they could have just written he can't be captured, but he made a thematic version where he self-destructs instead. Mm-hmm. The important thing is he's on attack. You may deal 3 damage to a damaged ground unit. And these red Han decks are specifically looking to play the Krayt Dragon with 2 damage on him already because of Han's ability. So if you preempt that by putting IG-11 into play, he's a 6/5 for 5, which is a good stat line. Like the 6 power especially is like, they're going to have to, I mean, if they're going to trade anything, it's dying also for sure. Like you're at least going to slow them down that way. But if they just try to play Krayt Dragon after you already have IG-11 in play and potentially ready, you can immediately attack the Krayt Dragon with his on attack, deal 3 damage to the Krayt Dragon, and then 6 more, which is 9, which puts it over the 8 required to take him out. So IG-11 is a card where you would take no damage from that Krayt Dragon. He can just immediately whip out his guns and blast down the Krayt Dragon. Bang. He's out of there.
He's gone. But this is slowly turning into the Krayt cast.
Yes, it is. I'm a fan of doing podcasts that focus on a singular thing, but you're right. Jason, I want to just really quickly mention there's capturing things. That's a new thing too. And those are potential options. But yeah, people will explore, I think, new ways to deal with Krayt Dragon. There are options out there to think about, and there are decks that I think will do really well against that deck as well. some people are going to get crushed by it though,
Yeah,
and they're going to have maybe a bad time.
Probably
so that's unfortunate.
The first time it happens, hopefully one of the last times it happens to them, they're like, okay, listen, I'm not letting that happen again. Let me try to brew up something, that doesn't deal with or have to deal with that card.
Yep. But let's move on. Let's talk about the card that is currently the second most expensive in the set, and I don't understand why. And maybe Jason, you can help me. We're going to talk about the Darksaber.
Yeah.
Okay. So the Darksaber is a 4-cost command, not heroes, not villains, just mono command again. +4/+3 upgrade, Mandalorian item weapon. So 4 costs, it's going to give 4 power and 3 HP to whatever it's attached to a non-vehicle unit. While playing this upgrade on a Mandalorian unit, ignore its aspect penalty, which is cool. You can actually, so it's not just commanded, it can go in any Mandalorian deck. Which I'm going to preempt this and say maybe that has something to do with its popularity.
Maybe.
But
Yeah.
And it says attached unit gains on attack, give an experience token to each other friendly Mandalorian unit. Which will presumably be at least, well, it might be none actually, because each other, it's not even the one it's attached to. It's a very thematic card, very cool. Art's amazing. Art's top tier on this card. It's fine, I think. What Jason, what was your take on the Darksaber?
I don't know if we're missing the boat on it, and maybe we are. But it just feels fine, somewhat middling, but fine. Like I don't see the allure, and I like kind of like these, like the Mandalorians to me right now feels like kind of you can go two ways. You can kind of go wide, pretty easily with them. Maybe use this as like kind of like a anthem effect for your board. For those not familiar, anthems in Magic, +1/+1. So if you have a Mandalorian board outside of the one you're gonna give them +1/+1, which is very strong. Even if this hits like 2 units, I mean it's really good value. But you have to attack with this card, so that to me doesn't feel great. Like the minute you're like, okay, cool, I will kill that thing, or I will capture that thing. So, and especially like now with the advent of capture, there's so many more avenues and different ways to remove cards. So to me, cards like this spook me out a little bit.
Exactly. That's exactly where I was going to go with this. My problem with this, I think stat wise, what you get for the cost, the no aspect penalty thing, even the attached ability to pump other Mandos, I think all that's good. Like, I don't think it's a card that like you don't get your value back for the cost on. Right. I don't think that. And the fact that you can attach this to like your Bo-Katan leader or something, like, first of all, flavor win. Yeah. That's sick. But second, I mean, a leader getting +4/+3 is scary. That's
huge.
That is like, because leaders are harder to deal with naturally, right? They're tougher too. That's, and like, if anything, that's the defense for the Darksaber, right? But I think any plays that are like attaching this to especially if it's a 3-cost unit or less, I have fallen lightsabered things that got traitorous in Spark of Rebellion. You great. Lose that game. Yeah. That game's done. I literally, that happened. I just lose. And like, I didn't give up, but it was clear. The writing was on the wall. I attached it. They traitorous it. Then they attacked me with it. And I'm like, yeah, I'm way too far behind now. I lost 2 cards to that 1 card. I lost the attack from that thing. I took 1 million damage out of nowhere. If you ever try and Darksaber, even like a little, maybe you find a little cheeky Mandalorian with a shield counter on it. You're like, yeah this thing's going to be so good. And then go traitorous, you just lose. Like
now you're going against a +4/+3 thing with a shield token on it. It's just beating you in the face. Like for me, it was the opposite. It would be like Yoda, like, oh, cool, I'll put this Jedi lightsaber. I'm like, cool, okay, I will take that. Now I'm like, don't do that.
Yeah,
just don't do that.
I've done the exact same thing. I was playing Luke. I had Yoda Jedi lightsaber, and they're like traitorous. So like that, I lose. I lose that game. Cool. It was like that was over. I would say with Darksaber too. So capturing is a thing that it'll that can now also happen. It's not just traders, but every color has access to capture effects of some kind potentially that they can use to capture it, and take it off the board for some amount of time. Now, capture is soft removal, right?
Right.
So you can get it back, and that's the nice thing. But often the point is the tempo. It's like you lose that card for a couple of turns, and over those turns, your opponent accrues some kind of advantage as you've been just trying to deal with the thing that captured your thing. And the other thing that is going to happen now is that we're seeing more efficient upgrade removal options.
That's what I was about to say. Yep.
Jumping. Okay, so
no, that's
why
great.
don't you talk?
No, that's good. No, I mean, I, as the Cheer It guy, have dealt with a lot of this upgrade removal already, and now we're even getting better options for removal in the set, and it's just a lot easier to play it or even board it. So, like, let's say you get got by it game one. All right, well, my sideboard package easily takes care of it, and usually with an upside now. Now it's not just defeat an upgrade. We're usually going to get a little bit more out of it. So I don't know. I'm sure
we're going to talk about one of those soon, actually.
I'm sure I'm going to get my face beaten by this card a game or two. I just don't know. I don't know. I don't see the big deal. And is it selling as high as it is right now? Granted, this is pre-sale. This is Narnia numbers. It doesn't matter.
Yes.
Yeah, this does not matter. But
it
still is surprising.
This is a card that I pegged as being one of the cheapest legendaries in the set early. If you had asked me like a month ago when we had the legend or whatever, we had the final legendary spell, I don't know what it was. And you said, Dan, rank, the cost for these. Darksaber would have been in my bottom 4 probably for cost, or bottom 5. It might've been right above the events. The events, I don't think were going to be very expensive. But Darksaber probably would have been right there. I don't think it's out of the question for it to drop down pretty low still from these pre-sales. And I want to point out that one thing I think we're seeing that I didn't expect. So maybe this is going to be interesting for you listeners as well. But maybe I feel weird because I'm so in tune with Star Wars, but like Mandalorians are pretty popular, huh?
I guess.
Because like we see right now some of the sales that have happened. The Mandalorian himself, the legendary Mandalorian hyperspace version, sold for 5 times the cost, or is currently at 5 times the cost. It's sold for 6 times the cost of the non-hyperspace version. It is currently, other than showcases, the most expensive single card that has sold on TCG Player. It's sold at $189 for a hyperspace Mandalorian. Yeah, it was foil. Hyperspace foil Mandalorian. Okay. But in addition to that, we had hyperspace foils of Mandalorian armor sold for 100. That card is a rare. It's just a rare for $100. We had a pre-sale of, now this one's insane.
This is nuts.
Vambrace grapple shot.
Nuts.
Hyperspace foil multiple sold at above $75. This is a common hyperspace foil in the set.
I wish that was pre-sold mine.
For well, yours, Jason, shoot. Your shop listed one of these at the market price.
Full disclosure, I know I work at a game store. We crack product and list it at pre-saling price, and the system kind of goes off whatever stuff is listed for, and it has rules for it. So if it goes down, it goes down. So you don't have to babysit it. And I go into work and they're like, hey, we sold this card. I'm like, oh, cool. Awesome. We're pre-selling Star Wars stuff. And some stuff sold at normal prices that I expected. And then they showed me that. I was like, oh, what do we get? Like 10, 15 bucks. And they're like, $80. I was like, someone willingly paid that. And we made sure. And the customer is happy with the purchase. So it's not my money. It's not their money. I mean, I guess it's their money, but it's insane. There must be.
Hopefully, it's their money.
I mean, right. What if they're like, I got grandma's credit card, which is another story for another day. We have this huge chargeback thing happen, but that's another day.
We'll put that on the Patreon podcast sometime.
That will be crazy. I guess it's just really popular, and again, the art on Darksaber is insane. Like, this card looks awesome, and I can't wait to see like a foil one or a hyperspace foil in person. I know this card's going to look disgusting, but I don't know. It just does what it does on the tin, and I don't think that's enough for me.
Yeah, I assume that this is getting inflated due to Mandalorian. I knew there was a waifu tax in card games. I just wasn't aware there was a Mandalorian tax
We're
in
paying it
Star Wars,
now.
but apparently there is. So I would say that's probably where it's going. Maybe some hype just because it's a it's a unique weapon. It's an important part of Star Wars, but I think this will go down. I would say my financial analysis for this is do not buy this card at this price. I
Yeah,
don't think that's a good buy.
I agree wholeheartedly.
Now, on the other hand, the next card on the list is Poe Dameron, Quick to Improvise, which is a card that I think I've seen played in just about every Red Heroism list that
Mm-hmm.
has been posted. This card, I think, if the supply is the same way as Spark of Rebellion, this is a card that can hold or increase in price as well. If this card is pretty insane, so it's for people who don't know, it's a 5 cost aggression, heroism, 6/6 resistance. Important. It doesn't have a rebel tag or anything, but that tag might be more important. But come set, I don't know, 4 or 5 or
Mm-hmm.
something. On attack, discard up to 3 cards from your hand. For each card discarded this way, choose a different option. Deal 2 damage to a unit or base. Defeat an upgrade. Bye bye, Darksaber. And an opponent discards a card from their hand. Bye bye, Krayt Dragon. So they choose, but this guy is a huge stat line for his cost. Every time he attacks, he has flexible options to deal with stuff on board. He can deal direct damage to base, so he can actually attack for 8 if you're willing to pitch cards. Remember, we're going to talk about this a little bit with another set of cards here, but like we like surprise strike effects. We're willing to pay for those. So discarding a card to deal 2 damage to something, it's not as much damage as surprise strike, but that's not bad. That's
Yeah.
not bad to just close the game out. Suddenly you're attacking for 8 with Poe, and I didn't do math on that. Yep, you didn't. He's going to kill you now. Yeah, Jason, how do we like Poe?
I would be calling this quick to pick up a playset of instead of improvise. I think this is the card. Besides one
Okay, I
more
see what
card
you're
we'll
doing
talk
there.
about. Yeah.
Took me a sec.
This is 100%, and we talked about it when this card was spoiled. This is 100% probably my favorite card. It's right up my alley. It does so much. It's so flexible.
Yeah.
I love flexibility. And again, we're getting we're getting a 6/6 for 5, which is already a great return on our investment. Very durable. Outside of force removal, you're probably going to get at least 1 good swing, possibly 2. And it's really easy to gas back up now. Those black ones that hopefully everybody picked up. You know,
Yep.
it's time to shine. It's finally time, which
I
is
think
great. It's nice to be thematic a bit.
I think I agree with that. I think one thing that holds me just like that I need to see play out is that it is not when played.
Sure.
And there is a common wisdom from other card games that, you really want your cards, the best cards in the game do something when they're played. Like look at set 1, look at Vader and Luke and those were good.
Sure.
Look at why Fett's Fire Spray was good. Specifically with it, energy conversion lab and everything. Those cards all like did insane work because they would come in and immediately impact the board,
Right.
immediately do something. Poe does not immediately impact the board, but he has a lot of potential if he sticks around, and his stats are really big.
Yes.
For putting a 5-drop in with an effect that is really good if he sticks around, having him also have a massive body right away does feel like I think this card bucks the trend a little bit and is like it's a must answer. And if you don't, you're going to pull ahead really far.
And I think we'd be remiss not to talk about cards we're even getting in this set. Like the build I'm already kicking around is in command because I want a timely intervention with this card so bad. That's going to be so sweet. Where I've resourced a timely intervention early in the game. Smuggle's going to be very powerful. I'm very nervous about how powerful Smuggle is going to be, and how much salt there's going to be from smuggling in general. From a rule standpoint, which I'm sure we could talk about in the future, just people luring which resources what. But anyway, we can give this card ways to attack on the turn it comes into play.
Well,
Very
energy conversion lab.
Energy conversion lab. It's very low hanging
yeah.
fruit to make this attack turn one or the turn it's played. You are right, and I do think there is merit to that because it won't go into like every list, but it's got a low risk cost too, right? Like if you spent 5 and they kill, it's like okay, well, dang, that at least that was like not my like curve topper or like my end boss. This is just a card very solid mid game that spirals the game out of control.
Right. And thank you. That's exactly the analogy I want to draw. Specifically, I wanted to compare this to Boba Fett Disintegrator.
Yeah.
Disintegrator is another thing that it's another unit that doesn't do anything the turn you play him unless you use a way to ambush him, which it was a good play also with him, similar to how it is with Poe. But he needed to take a removal right away, or he caused a lot of, he punched up so well, killing just about anything that was a problem. And sometimes just not dying when he did it too, not even taking any damage in return. Poe is very similar in that like he's a little higher on the curve at 5, but 5 still feels like it's below where I like the cards that I want my opponent to not have saved their removal for.
Yeah.
It's like you would play Boba Fett, your opponent would go, I'm going to force choke that. And you'd go, cool,
sure,
that's fine. You'll play Poe Dameron, your opponent go, I'm gonna take down that, or you can't take down it. Sorry, I'm gonna vanquish that. That's the thing. His 6 is out of the range of both force choke and takedown. So, but they can rivals fall him.
Mm-hmm.
They can that one's expensive. I was thinking fell the dragon. They can fell the dragon him. That's going to be the new one. They can fell the dragon him. They can also just straight vanquish him or something.
Yeah.
But if they spend those cards on Poe, that's fine.
And I think in most like shells too, like it's going to be easy to either recur or it's like, okay, cool. I probably have another threat or something further down the line that's going to be scarier. But if this card gets to resolve an attack or live an attack, then great, even better for my machinations.
And I want to point out too, really quick before we move on, is just the interaction with Marauder. Oh. Another card I'm really excited about in the set.
Yeah.
So Marauder is a new command and heroism card that is a 5 cost. It's also 5. That's the one like slightly awkward thing about it, but you're probably just gonna play out Marauder second. Generally, it works still with Poe just fine. 5 cost command heroism 4/5 space unit fringe vehicle transport. It has ambush, which in space is something that we have kind of less access to a little bit, which is really nice. And has when played, choose a card in your discard pile. Put it into play as a resource if it shares a name with a unit you control. So Poe being able to the turn that you untap with Poe, you ready your Poe, and you have Marauder in hand. You now have the ability, and you can attack with Poe. You can pitch either Poe or Marauder from hand to activate his ability, and then next action play Marauder, and it'll, unless your opponent dealt with the Poe or something, it'll match one of your units in play because you have both Poe and Marauder in play, and then you can put that in as a resource immediately. So you like Poe can set up plays like that, which as the game continues on and we get more interactions with the discard pile as well, when Dr. Aphra starts to become potentially playable as well, those effects just get better and better.
Yeah, absolutely. Very exciting card. I want 3 hopefully by the end of the weekend.
Yes. Absolutely agreed. Okay. Next, the next most expensive card is the Mandalorian. Wherever I go, he goes. And I just wanted to talk about this because it is, again, the hyperspace foil was the most expensive sold single card that isn't a showcase so far. And I really think the reason for that cost was just the character and Mandalorian tax, right?
The art is great on that card too. Like, I mean, come on,
incredible!
It's so cool. I think it's justified. As far as playability, I like the card a lot. I don't know. It's good. Like you're getting a pretty decent stat line for what you're paying. I don't know how relevant the ability is on this card. To be honest,
The when played. Oh yeah.
yeah, the
Sorry, I
replayability.
didn't read the
Oh
card
yeah,
out.
yeah.
6 cost Vigilance Heroism, 5/6 Mandalorian Bounty Hunter. Sentinel. When played, you may heal all damage from a unit that costs 2 or less and give 2 shield tokens to it.
Cool.
Yeah, it's
Gundam up Grogu, Voltron. There we go.
I would say unless the meta is really something unexpected here, this is a card that probably shouldn't sit at this currently $30 price
Yeah,
tag.
unless we're again something might develop where this card is, oh my gosh, this is awesome. But
I don't think it's bad.
no,
I think it's playable. I just don't think it's I don't think it's the, I like really where we're at right now. We're at pricing. So like Poe, Krayt Dragon, and for some reason Darksaber are the cards that are like have the most hype as far as cost. They're a jump above the rest in cost, with Poe going currently at $42. Mandalorian is down in the 20s now. So we have like 20s. We have Kylo's TIE Silencer in the 30s. We're talk about that in just a second. But like the rest of the legendaries are in the 20s or less for pre-sale costs, which
all
means a
seem
bunch of them
about
are definitely going to go down.
yeah. And like I think those are okay for pre-sale prices. Like they're fine.
Yeah. It's kind of like I want to make sure I get it. I want to take the risk. It could go up. I just want to grab it right now. And that's sure, you can pay that cost.
Yeah, I really have much more to say about the Mandalorian. Cool card. I don't know. I don't think it's worth a lot of it. It's definitely one of those. It does what it does on the tin, and you get what you get. And cool, grind whatever value you can out of that.
Let's kind of get towards the end of this conversation. I know you and I both had a deck we wanted to talk about as well, and it's going to tie into this a little bit. But I want to talk about Kylo's TIE Silencer. Oh, I want to mention that a bunch of the legendaries are sequel trilogy stuff. I did not expect that.
No, at all. I think a lot of people did not.
Out of Shadows of the Galaxy, but like we have Poe already, Kylo's TIE Silencer, Rey, Kylo Ren, Supreme Leader Snoke, DJ, all like it's like half of the legendaries in the set are sequel trilogy stuff, and it's like the main sequel trilogy stuff from the set. There's like otherwise there's like there's a Finn leader and there's a Rose somewhere, and there's a couple
what's crazy about that is that it's not divisive at all.
Yeah, I haven't seen people like mad about it really. But
it's not a divisive topic at all.
Yeah. I mean, people probably will start getting mad because they like to get mad about sequel trilogy. Have you seen it? Okay, well, cool. Whatever.
Kylo's TIE Silencer.
I want to talk about Kylo's TIE Silencer, and then a little bit about Rey, and maybe a little bit of Snoke, and that'll be kind of it's going to be kind of rapid fire a little bit more here, but Kylo's TIE Silencer is actually sitting right now at $35. So it is above Mandalorian in its base cost. And it is it's the kind of the odd card here because it's just a very efficient low to the ground unit in the legendary slot, where a lot of the legendaries are like 5 cost and above typically. And it is a 2 cost aggression, villainy, first order vehicle fighter. It is 3 power and 2 HP. So it's a 2 cost 3/2 in space, which is the stat line we kind of like to see.
Yeah.
Action: if this unit was discarded from your hand or deck this phase, play it from the discard pile, paying its cost. So, Jason, you and I are both really excited about Kylo decks, I think.
Yeah. Oh, I agree. I'm really, really excited. And I think its pricing is that there are other people excited about it too. I think the deck is certainly real. I think there are going to be games where Kylo runs away with it. Runs away with it. Like if you have a really good opening setup, one of these in your hand, you can really just kind of take control of the game super early before the opponent's removal even really matters. It's very exciting. And I think Kylo's Silencer being at where it's at for its anticipation lines up with my expectations of the card. I do know a couple of my locals think this Kylo is bait. I disagree entirely. I think Kylo Leader is awesome. I think Hellbent strategies in general. Like I love that kind of stuff. So it really resonates with me, and I think there's hype behind the archetype, which explains kind of what the pre-sailing is for this card.
I think the thing I like about Kylo is that he seems very effective for 2 totally different strategies too. I think aggro Kylo is really scary and pushes a lot of damage really fast. Like when you think about Silencer, the reason Silencer I feel like deserves this $35 price tag right now, which I'd be to come out and say I think that's a fine price, like a
Yeah,
fine price
I
for the
feel like
card.
it could whine
I
around
think
there.
it's really good. I think that's because with Kylo Ren in particular, this leader, Kylo's TIE Silencer isn't just a 2-cost 3/2. It's a 2-cost 3/2 mini surprise strike because
Yes.
you get to activate Kylo, pitch it from your hand, +2/+0 a unit you already have in play, then pay 2 and play it. So it's like you didn't have to lose the card. You just got this free +2/+0 buff. Then that you then also put a threatening space unit, 3 power. I can't get over how important that threshold is.
Mm-hmm.
Kylo's TIE Silencer kills A-Wings and doesn't die in return.
Yes.
That is wild. That is powerful. That is like what you want a 2-cost space unit to do specifically right now. So I think that allows this deck to play aggressively, super aggressively, being able to push damage and put threats onto the board at the same time in the early game. Flipping into Kylo really early on because Kylo deploys on 4 resources,
Yeah.
just like Sabine, and deploys now on his flip side. He gets -1/-0 for each card in your hand. And he's a 5/4 otherwise, but those decks are able to put this 5/4 into play really early on. Just play off the top with their 2 cards per turn with a low without having to resource really, and just close the game out really fast. If you can't immediately kind of deal with Kylo. On the other hand, you can play, I think, a discard reanimator style strategy with Kylo as well. Kylo having this unique feature of being a card that enables reanimator on his face value by letting you discard cards. Reanimator decks that play things out of the discard pile, basically. So this is the deck everyone's looking at with Palpatine's Return, a card I'm very excited for as well. Being able to return things like Vader, Maul, or Palpatine himself out of the discard pile pretty early on in the game, all things considered. And he's able to do this kind of setup while also giving units plus power, which maybe you're not going to want to attack their face with him. But that is, we've talked about this in previous podcasts. If you're a longtime Galactic Ambition listener, you know how important Jason, I think, damage thresholds are.
Yeah.
Getting +2/+0 on your unit means your small units punch up and take out the stronger things that your opponent has. So A-Wings get to die from even really dumb like 1/1 space units. You can play like V-Wings in there and draw a card and then punch up into an A-Wing and get actual value out of that as you're setting up to be able to reanimate your gigantic Palpatine or whatever. That is, I think, a valid strategy to be able to take that. I'm really excited to explore as well. So Silencer fits really well into both sides of that, and I think it makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it kind of ties well into the real quick kind of 1-2 combo. You could also Palpatine return your Rey that you're playing with your Kylo deck, and do that. I mean,
Yes.
there's and to kind of segue into that, there's anticipation with the Kylo and Rey legendary package to kind of do something with them both. I don't know how real that's going to be, but it's kind of justifying where their prices are holding at right now without digging too much into the cards. They just synergize, with each other. I think that's kind of interesting that also can bleed into that kind of, synergy style, the reanimation style with that. Overall, the whole Kylo as a leader is just so intriguing that I think that there's so much to be explored. The reanimator stuff is scary, especially the longer the game goes. Aggro is just what's dear to my heart, so I immediately just snapped to that.
Yeah. I think I just want to add that I think the Rey and Kylo legendaries, which we're just gonna have kind of flash on the screen here.
Yeah, you'll see them
for
on the TV
for viewers, but they are both extremely cool. They have this cool ability where you can play them in their Last Jedi version of them, so you can play Rey in a Kylo deck without paying aspect penalties, and vice versa. Kylo in a Rey deck. I think they're really neat. They have sort of like opposite abilities. Rey heals and puts shields on stuff. Kylo pushes damage, and puts experience tokens on stuff. So they're really neat. I don't know where they go yet. I don't know how they fit into things. I think they're really cool. I think their art's incredible. I think they look really,
Yeah,
really
they
sick.
look awesome.
I just say, like, every time I think art's incredible, it's Amelie Hutt is the artist. So this artist, she is on fire. So that's great. Um, and yeah, they're both commanding decent price tags, along with Supreme Leader Snoke right now, holding up kind of our $20 price tags. Snoke being an interesting new end game card that I think has the potential to be extremely strong and playable. Could be a sideboard option instead. I'm gonna go through him quick. He's an 8 cost villainy vigilance villainy, force first order official. He has the important tags there. I think force and official are extremely important tags for him to have that make him work synergize nicely with some other things, like Royal Guard and any of the force stuff. He's a 6/6 with each enemy non-leader unit gets -2/-2. Magic players are familiar with Elish Norn, who is an oppressive card sometimes.
Yeah.
I think, in my experience, playing against Elish Norn in Magic, that -2/-2 your board was way better than you thought it would be right away. Because suddenly all your cool like Poes are now just 4/4s, which Poes already were like, he has really good stats. No, now he's a 4/4, which isn't bad, but he's in range of everything now. He can't meaningfully trade with as many things. But like where it's really impactful against the things that are like at the 4/4 or less level, making 4/4s into 2/2s is taking like half of everybody's deck and making it just terrible.
Yeah.
And then it just straight up kills aggro decks. There's everything there is dead.
Yeah.
They're dead or they do no damage. They do 1 damage or something. And I think that's the biggest thing. Like, he may be a sideboard thing for this vigilance decks to go like, well, once I drop him against Leia or Sabine or something, game's just over.
Yeah. I feel like that's a big meta call on your room or where you play. You know, you're walking into the Sabine or the new hot aggro decks all the time. That's probably something you'll main board. I was kind of on the record earlier that when we were amping up for this, that I'm not as up, but I can definitely see where it's like, this is a very, I mean, Elish Norn was, one of those cards, a nightmare to go against. It's just an absolute nightmare. So this, without reasonable answers, and aggro decks don't have an answer to this card or any Peace Day resistance in a lot of these control decks. But this is just like, it snuffs them out or Snokes them out, if you will.
It Snokes them out.
Hey, on a roll.
It's it's gonna be, I think it's gonna be a card. I can see it going down in price, so I think it'll be an option. I don't think it'll be like the 3 of main board that you need. But I could see potential 3 of sideboards or something, and like, or maybe like a couple in the side and having 1 in the main, just because it's like, I don't think it's ever bad. Like, I don't think this card has any matchups where it's like, oh, this just does nothing. I think it's got a range though of how good it is, depending on what your opponent is doing.
Absolutely.
Which ranges from decent to game winning, straight game winning,
debilitating, crippling. But yeah,
we don't want this to be only legendaries, right. So we are going to close out with a couple. No, we got 2. We got 2. Oh, yeah, okay. We got 2 we're going to talk about.
Okay.
2 non-legendary cards. Jason, you wanted to talk about a little guy called Darth Maul.
Yeah. Arguably one of the best cards in the entire set. Where I lost place. So I'll give you the skinny on this guy. He's a 7-drop command villainy guy. He's a force underworld tax, ambush and overwhelm for a 7/6 on attack. You may choose another friendly underworld unit. If you do, all combat damage that will be dealt to this unit during this attack is dealt to that chosen unit instead. Without that line of text, that whole ability, this card is still excellent. Like,
7/6 excellent ambush overwhelm for 7 is like, that's excellent
card. Those of you who have been, I can't get a Darth Vader, I don't want to spend the Darth Vader, rejoice. Your time has come. This is the number 1 card for me pre-release weekend. I want to leave with 3 of this card however I can. This is probably my favorite card in the entire set. It's so effective, and it's effective without other things. Like, you just, it just does so much on its own. It's a removal spell in itself that it's going to jump into something. It's going to trample over the rest of the damage with the overwhelm. In a lot of situations, it's going to live through that first attack, so you're going to do it again. And I just can't say enough awesome things about this card. And really, for me, it was really nice to see. Even, I mean, nice. I don't know if it necessarily needed it for there to be an option outside of Vader. Especially for affordability. And that was a huge gripe from a lot of people. I can't play this deck. I don't have Vader.
Yeah, Maul existing as a Vader alternative, I think is so good for the game. I want to correct myself too. I did call him Darth Maul earlier. Yeah. And I have to be fair because Darth is no longer part of his name at this point in the game. This is in the series. This is Maul after the fall, the literal fall of Maul, when he is just on his own and he's just Maul. And he's got the visionary for all the underworld gangs working together, the Shadow Collective. So I'm just correcting that because I know we're going to see Darth Maul at it maybe next set, if not probably after that. But that'll be really exciting too because it'll be episode 1, and he's so sweet then.
So cool.
But yeah, Maul's great. Maul is a really cool card. I love this, like, he's got this underworld tag thing too. So like you can use him as budget Vader, or we've got these Cad Bane decks that people are looking at where you're going to have like underworld tag all over the place. And Maul is going to be really, really sick there because he gets to kill things and not take any damage back.
Yeah, that's so good.
It's like, oof. Yeah, and he's overwhelming it and stuff. Oh man!
Yeah, and I think Underworld is going to be surprisingly effective. I'm really excited for a lot of cards. I'm sure we'll talk about in the next cast. That's one of the decks I'm looking at.
Yeah, next cast we'll actually have our first play experiences and everything to talk about, which will be really good. I'm going to talk about one more card, and specifically, this is a shout out to our guy Sundeep Sunny, who has joined us for a couple of our. Actually our most popular videos so far too. It's because everybody wants to come see Sunny, which is great. Sunny is just a really nice guy, and he was so willing and helpful and like wanting to join us and show off his very successful runs in Star Wars Limited so far. And Sunny
also really good.
He's extremely good. Yeah, Sunny's an extremely good player. And I've been playing his Palpatine Yellow deck, as I mentioned earlier, and I haven't actually dropped a match in my locals since I started playing it. So it's good, guys. It's good. And Sunny, in the last video we did at the end, I put him on the spot, said, what are you excited for in Spark of Rebellion? Or sorry, Shadows of the Galaxy. And he said, Triple Dark Raid. Ooh. Triple Dark Raid is a 3-cost event, tactic, cunning, and villainy. Search the top 7 cards of your deck for a vehicle and play it. Put the other cards at the bottom in random order. It says right there, so you don't get confused. It costs 5 less and enters play ready. Return it to its owner's hand at the end of the phase. So this is 3 cost. It reduces cost by 5. This is sneak attack because it also enters ready. This allows you, it's only vehicles though, but you get to dig for it instead of having a card in hand. I feel like this card is kind of cracked. I feel like this card is kind of insane. Digging 7 cards is a lot of cards. You do have to be pretty vehicle heavy to have pretty good odds, but you can play this and potentially find a Devastator. I'm just going to throw that out there that you can play for 8. So on like turn 7 or turn 6, if you ramped, maybe if you could play this in the Palpatine deck, if you just like modify it to have more vehicle focus, and you can flip out a Devastator the turn you also are dropping Palpatine and attack with the Devastator immediately as well. Like and then it goes to your hand.
Yeah,
it doesn't get sacrificed. So the card replaces itself as well with whatever you found. The Devastator is obviously the crazy top end play, but there's going to be Fire Spray. You could just put Fire Spray out if you want. There are going to be a bunch of other vehicles. You can play any Star Destroyer you can think of, is on the table as well. So yeah, I don't know. This card is pretty sweet. I think this card is really cool, and it's going to get better over time too.
Yeah, absolutely. I wasn't as excited about this card until you started talking about it in all of its applications. And I think the big, like you said, you have to play vehicles. The good news, there's plenty of very awesome vehicles that you can play. So it's not like, oh, drat, I need to put these vehicles in my deck. It's like, oh, dang, I'm going to play these super cool cards. I could cheat into play and then replay. Like, the not sacrificing it is a big deal. Like, because you still get the card, your card positive off this, which is excellent.
Your card neutral.
Neutral. Yeah, neutral.
But you are extremely card positive if you put Reinforcement Walker into play, which is a vehicle. So I love Reinforcement Walker.
So
my
good.
Favorite common or uncommon, whatever. It's my favorite card of whatever rarity it is. I don't care what rarity it is. It's my favorite Spark of Rebellion card at that rarity. Card is insane. That will allow you to slam for 6 that turn. By the way, you're playing that for 6. You're playing that for 6, which is just crazy if you find it.
Mm-hmm.
You are going to slam for 6. You are going to either heal up to 6 or draw up to 2 cards or something, or heal 3, draw 1. And then you're going to put the Reinforcement Walker back in your hand and you're just going to slam it down like on a future turn again, which is like, that just feels so good. Holy cow. I think that card's insane. So, shout out to Sonny. I think he's onto something. You've heard it here too now. Don't sleep on Triple Dark Raid. Jason now knows he's not supposed to sleep.
I am awake.
All right. But I think we've yammered on long enough. Those are just some of the many, many cards we're extremely excited about in Shadows of the Galaxy. Jason, do you want to add anything else before we go?
Yeah.
What's your showcase? What showcase do you want? No, tell me that.
Oh, what showcase do I want? I think I've talked about it. I want Hunter really bad. I think it looks super
Hunter.
Sick. Looks super
I want
sick.
Kylo Ren. It looks so good.
Outside of that, any parting comments about any cards or any advice going into your pre-releases this weekend?
Yeah. Player removal.
It's a good one.
If pre-releases have 30 cards is very small. Anything that searches is usually pretty efficient, and any bombs you have, any like major powerful cards like a Krayt Dragon or something, you're going to find it most of your games if you allow the game to go later. So play to your bomb. I think that's the best advice I have. That's how I won the pre-release with Hera in Spark of Rebellion. So just play to your bombs and play your removal.
For me, have a lot of fun. It's a celebration of the game. That's a good part of the pre-release. And second, Finalizer is garbage.
Don't play Finalizer.
Hold on. In Sealed, this I don't know if you can get to 11. It's still an 11. I'm just saying.
I talked about it. I opened it in my pool in the video, and I chose not to play it because 11 is just.
But the Finalizer's junk. It's garbage.
Yeah, we were going to talk about Finalizer. Neither Jason.
There's
or I
our
think
conversation about it. I think
that was conversation over.
It's junk, and I think that was a lot of fun. We talked about the most anticipated cards, not in our opinion. Now that's what people are thinking on the internet, spending their money, a lot of money on.
Yeah.
If you had a card you're anticipating, let us know what it is. Comment.
Would love to hear. What did we miss? This is your opportunity to publicly mock us.
Yeah,
let us know what
did Dan miss?
What did Jason miss?
Nothing. He's perfect. Let us know. Let us know what you thought. What you're most excited about to open this weekend, or to just pick up. What you're most excited for about Shadows in the Galaxy. Thank you all so much for listening to this episode of Galactic Ambition, part of the Maindeck podcast family. For Dan, I'm Jason. Have a great pre-release weekend. Have fun. Celebrate the game. Have a great time. Be safe and trade me all the cards I need. I need Mauls. Yeah, I need Mauls and I need Poes. So find me. Get at me.
Hit Jason up. Thanks, everyone.
Have a good one, guys. Take care. See you later.